Welcome to Harness the Shift, the podcast where I spotlight souls shaping a new humanity. I am Jay, a neurosomatic strategist bringing lived experience and practical insight to help listeners see new perspectives and navigate their own paths. I interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and co-creators and change makers, those who have stepped into their healing journeys and are sharing their experiences and perspectives to inspire others on their path of self-discovery and transformation. During these conversations, my guests share how you can connect with them, and all their details are in the podcast description. Now let's take a moment to meet our guests for today.
Literally just a few nights prior to me arriving, she was committing suicide. She had made up her mind. She was going to take her life. She had wrote the letter to her family, and that was going to be it. And something whispered to her right before she did it. Thank God that she was obedient. She picked up her phone, and my flyer from my event went scrolling across her phone. And she said, I could just tell from the flyer, I didn't know you, but God was like, if I can just get you there, I'll heal everything that's broken in you. And so she said, I need you to know that if I didn't pick up my phone and I did not see your flyer and I did not feel compelled to come, I would not be in front of you today. And so if you show up to any other room, please just show up for the next woman, the one woman that needed you the most.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome back to Harness the Shift. My name is Jay, and I'm your host. Today's conversation is about stepping into your path, embracing entrepreneurship, and creating from a place of courage and vision. I'm joined by Leslie Wright, founder of Partiez by Leslie. Leslie is an event planner and entrepreneur who creates experiences that bring people together while also encouraging creativity and entrepreneurship within her own family. In this episode, we talk about building something meaningful, navigating life seasons, and as Leslie beautifully puts it, learning to own the rights to the ebbs and flows of your life. And today's episode is lovingly dedicated to the memory of Wenda Shirley Wright, Leslie's mother. Hello, you beautiful souls. How are you today? Thank you for joining us. Help me welcome our guest, Leslie Wright from Greensboro, North Carolina. Hello, Leslie.
How are you?
I am well. Welcome. Welcome to Harness the Shift. Right. Before we jump in, I'd love to hear what's lighting you up today and inspiring you in this moment.
Yeah, I was sharing with you before we went on live. I was giving you a sneak peek.
Yeah.
What is lighting me up today is motherhood. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I laugh all the time because I am a boy mom. I tell everyone I am the minority in my house, but then I'm still the majority in my house. And so, I had to just have a interesting conversation with my 4-year-old to remind him the balance of love and parenthood, and I can love you, but it's my job to steer you when you're wrong. And it was just very empowering. I think sometimes my boys see this short little mom in the house, and we can kind of push her over sometimes. And so I had to lay the smack down and let them know, hey, I might be short, but I'm still mom. Okay.
I'm the
believe
one.
it or not, yeah, believe it or not, it was kind of a hear me roar moment, a tough one, but I did it. I didn't let my kids walk over me, and I think that's something to be said and to draw strength from.
Oh, I bet. That's one I am a mother to a 4-legged child. I don't know anything about little humans. I know that it's a responsibility that I evidently didn't sign up for in this lifetime, but I have mad respect.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
I can't even relate. I can't even relate. But
So
I can I'm a daughter that witnessed it from a wonderful mom's. I can imagine the struggle there,
yeah.
especially
You have days
with
where it's a careful balance with being their friend and their mom. And to let them know I'm not here to break you down, to the lowest common denominator, but I am also the first representation of empowerment and grace and grit, but also authority. And if I don't teach you to respect me, I can't ask you to respect anyone outside my home.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Leslie, your journey in entrepreneurship began with founding Partiez by Leslie back in
Yes.
2008.
Yeah.
What was the moment or the experience that made you decide you had to launch your own business?
Yeah, I remember it very vividly. I was sitting on the floor in the middle of my apartment and I was just tired. I wasn't upset. I wasn't angry. I have been so blessed to have jobs that I actually wanted. I gleaned from all of them, thoroughly enjoyed every last. I don't have a job where I look back and say, man, I'm glad I left that, right? I loved my
Right,
jobs, but
right.
there was just always this inkling like, surely there has to be something more than just going to work, paying my bills, possibly having $200 left to take myself to a nice dinner and a movie, and that's it. And then we do it all over again for another 2 weeks. There
Yeah.
has to be something else. And so I remember very vividly sitting on my floor and saying, God, you know how I feel about this entrepreneurship thing. Like, I thought it was the plague, you all. Like, I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I remember praying, God, please don't pick me. Please just pass by my door. But I remember being on the floor, kind of just in a surrender. It's like, if there's something more for me, if I'm supposed to be doing something else, I think I'm ready for you to tell me.
That's interesting. Hello, you beautiful souls. I hope that you're enjoying the podcast thus far. About a year ago, I started using LifeWave X39 patch, and after 12 months, I can honestly say I feel amazing. Living in Portland, the weather usually reminds my joints of what season we're in. But over this past year, I have noticed something. I feel better, less stiffness, more ease in my body. If I could put a number on it, maybe 70% better overall. I am a woman of a particular age. But what caught my attention was the science. And that's why I started using X39. These patches use light to stimulate your own copper peptides. No drugs, no chemicals going into your body, just a signal interacting with your skin. Now, officially, we can't say it stimulates stem cells, so I won't say that, but the body already knows how to repair itself. Sometimes it just needs the right signal. After a year, I'm convinced something good is happening. So, if you're curious, take a look. Your body might surprise you. Okay. He's got his squeaky toy and I'm like, okay, we can't be having that.
Yes.
We can't be having the squeaking. So, sorry. We're live here and the squeaky toy in the background. Sorry.
It's all live.
So, your work spans event planning and empowerment tours and writing and more. How do
Yeah.
you integrate creativity and purpose into every part of your life and work?
Yeah. I think I keep dreams alive in my work. I don't allow clients or friends or even family for the first conversation to always be about the money. I don't know if I can afford this dress. I don't know if I could afford to celebrate myself. I have what we call business with ease consultations, where we are just talking about the fun and the ease of life again. And I allow my clients and my friends and family to just dream for just a minute. Let's put something together. Let's plan something together. Let's craft or partner together on something. And for once, let's just talk about all the fun parts of it first,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
get to the budget. The budget will come. But I think I keep creativity and dreams brewing that way because when people come to me, they're already so bogged down. There's already an assumption, that I'm either too busy or I'm not affordable. And so my way to get past that and inject, right,
right,
creativity
right,
and grace is to say, no, today we're just going to talk about, do you want to serve chicken or steak? And people are blown away that they get to start with the fun and the curated
right.
parts of creating moments with one another than the budget first.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we have to have a budget for things, absolutely, but I think that there's so much conditioning and programming around money And when we say we can't afford or I don't have, we're in that mindset of lack, right?
Yes.
And let's just have fun with it. I love that concept that you have fun with it. Even if it's not going to look exactly like that, maybe you'll have to make some tweaks, but like let's dream a little bit
Yeah,
because
let's
dreams.
not kill the dream. What do they say on site? As soon as we start
Yes,
talking about whatever said celebration you want to do, you're already defeated because you're looking at the budget and saying, instead of saying, how can we figure out how to afford this?
right,
You suffocate the possibility before it even starts.
right, right, absolutely. So your parties, right? They serve a
Yes.
wide range of clients and events. What is your philosophy on creating meaningful experiences that resonate beyond just logistics?
Yeah, I think creating curated experiences have to first start with you understanding that it's not your event anyway. I remind my clients and even friends that come and ask me about their programs or what do I think about the way they're building out a tour or an event. First thing I ask them is, did you ask God about that? And it really pauses people like, well, no, not yet. And it's like we will go and we will meet with everybody. We'll meet with the accountant, we'll meet with the baker and the caterer and all the things, but we don't have a meeting with God to say, what do you think about this? Like all these things that I'm planning. And so now I really do park the brakes. I didn't always, but I really do park the brakes with clients now to say, did you pray about that decision or did you make that decision on your own? Because when
Yeah,
you do that, you don't also give yourself room for things to not go as planned as we were just talking about,
right.
because that regimen and that expectation is so sealed and you hold on to it with so much control. I had to learn about control as well so that I had to learn about control first, Jay, before I could walk my clients through control.
Yes, yes. Control is a that's an interesting thing because
Mhm.
I'm going to speak the truth here. We have no control. Usually we
Yeah,
have no control. Like and sometimes it's just a shift in mindset that it's okay. Maybe if I'm a little bit open to letting things come to fruition the way that God would like them to come to fruition.
yeah,
Man, can you imagine? Maybe I'm not even thinking about something that comes to fruition that just totally knocks my socks up. I would have never even thought about it. Happens all the time. Has happened so much in my spiritual journey that has blown my mind. Like I
yeah,
never thought of that. I never thought of that. I never thought about that. I can't believe that happened because I've let go of the reins, right? Because
right.
being a control freak, right? And there is a lot of that where folks they want to have control over
Yeah,
every aspect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because, I think we feel like if we say yes too much, then it makes us vulnerable. But what I have learned in life is the more I say yes, the more help I get. And I'll never forget that, I had a recent experience where I'm preparing to go on a tour and I had someone step forward to say, Leslie, we'll just cover the catering bill. And do you know, Jay, I freaked out. I said, no, we should have a sponsor to do that. You can't do that's a budget. I just can't let you do that. And they probably had to like lean in. You can hear them leaning in over the phone. Leslie, we're gonna cover the food budget. Let it be okay.
I
Just let
love
it be
that.
okay. Just say yes and let's move on to the next thing on the
Yeah.
task list. And so what I've learned, at least about myself, and I pray this helps a listener, is that when we can't release the control over some things, we condition ourselves to just say no on autopilot. And we forget the word yes. We literally forget to say yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can help me. Yes, you can call me. Yes, you can hold me
Right.
while I cry. Yes, you can do that. And
And
so it
how
just
to,
becomes conditioning
right.
to say no.
And I think when we try to like control the things, we block blessings that our creator wants to give us.
Yeah,
And so stop it, folks.
right, right. We call it, organization. We put a lot of different things on it. We put, correction and self-control. Self-control is a good one. We put a different label on it so that it doesn't seem so rigid. But my girlfriend gets on me all the time. She's like, you know what your problem is? You need to have control. That's just the problem, Leslie. And I'm like, maybe.
So talk a little bit about what it is that you do. Like, what's your special jam? I always say that everybody's got their own special jam, right? There's people that are in this business that do this. What makes you special? What is your special jam that
My special sauce,
your
right?
special sauce?
I'm different because I don't just say, what's your budget? What type of event do you want to do? What are the colors? What are the flowers? And who are the people involved? I work with individuals that usually have less than $5,000 to $8,000 to get their entire events done, financed, no debt after the event. And so I deal with individuals that, again, the first thing on their mind is the money. And so they assume that all of it has to come from them. And so my secret sauce when you come to me is I sit and I say, and that's why we have to do the ease and the dreaming first,
Right.
because I help my clients go find money that's out there for their events. So every line item is not something that they are paying for, but how can we get some partnerships and some sponsorships and some outside funding to finance the dream? It doesn't always have to come from your bank account. And I think that's what makes me unique. I don't think a lot of event planners are helping you fund your wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wow. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you have a little bit of like grants and you know how to get a hold of all of these extra money or sponsorships from companies. This is
Yeah, with
something.
18 years, you build a pretty
Wow.
decent business network that over time has watched your business grow up and mature and really do some remarkable things. I can talk about my business network forever, but I really do have a following of people that are anxious and excited about giving to the next person. They have giving hearts just like me. And so, if I have to go to a caterer and say, "Hey, I got a bride that's in need. Here's the need." Yeah, I will. I have some relationships. I'll say that. I can't get you free chicken, but I might be able to get you some discounted chicken. That's all I'm saying, Jay.
Hey, whatever works, right? Whatever works.
A pity saying. And so that's what gets me up in the morning is helping
Uh,
people not just say, well, forget it, we just can't get married, we can't have the business launch, we can't have the grand opening because we don't have the funding. I say no, let's go find people that are in alignment with what you're trying to do, that believe in your marriage, that believe in your union, that believe in this church being built. Let's go find some people that in our alignment and already kind of doing what you need help with, and let's ask for funding before we just give up. And so I think that's what makes me unique is I
I
work
love
on
that.
both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing asset to embody because yeah, you never know where abundance can come from.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, the Bible says we have not because we ask not, and we miss out on a lot of support and a lot of funding because we just didn't ask. Nobody knew
Right.
that we had this passion to build this bookstore. We're at home stressed about the money, but we never told anybody about the vision in a way that compels them to get involved. And so when people come to me, they know that I have that unique spin on
Yeah,
events, that we're
yeah.
not just going to plan it with your money, but we're going to plan it with kingdom cash. And kingdom cash is money that I might not be able to see in the natural, but when I tap into the spiritual, there's all sorts of money that I can access.
I think that's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, you've also hosted the Ladies Night In Empowerment Tour for years.
Yeah.
What's one of the most profound lessons from that leading on that tour, and what shifted how you relate to leadership and community, or
Yeah.
and or?
Yeah. Latest Night In was my baby for 6 years.
Mm,
Self financed. I went up and down the East Coast to include Canada, doing women's nights and expos. And it just really started with my Mary Kay career. And so I had started doing facials. And then I started getting input from women that they enjoyed the content, not just the experience. They enjoyed that they could eat and not just this. And so I began to kind of sort of piecemeal all these different reasons why women were coming, and it blossomed into an event called Ladies Night In. And it was birthed at a time where everyone was doing Ladies Night Out. And I was like, God, give me something different. I don't want to be Ladies Night Out. And he gave me Ladies Night In because he said, I'm going to send you, regionally out to heal people from within, because they're doing a lot of partying and they're doing a lot of girlfriend time, but they are just as broken as they were when they came as when they leave. There's no true transformation happening at some of these events, and I want to switch that up a little bit. And so my tour was about not just making you feel good and look good, but that you also did good. Well, how can you do good? And my spin was starting a business. And so the women that came, many of them were in their first 5 years of business or had never launched. And so that was a tour for the woman who just was in the labor and delivery room with her gift, but wouldn't push.
Right, right. And
So
see,
how
this
that
is,
impacted my leadership
yeah,
is it became not about me. On that tour, I learned that when you're doing business, it just can't be about you. You have to always keep the person you are meant to serve in front of you. That's what's going to keep you going on the days where you're like, I don't want a podcast, I don't want to travel, I don't want another hotel stay. But
yeah.
if you could just put that person back in view, you'll be okay. And I had a night I'll never forget. I was in Texas, and Jay, I was firing mad, if I could just be honest with your listeners. And I had came all this way from North Carolina and had all these women registered, and I get there and there might have been 10. And of course, you put on a brave face, you put your wig on, your makeup on, and you go up there, right? Like there's a room full of people. But I was
And rock it
so,
out.
yeah, but at the end of the night, when everyone began to leave, I began to crumble. And I think God saw me. Like, you send me all the way out here to Texas. The event planners listening feel my pain. You sent me all the way out here to Texas for 10 women. I was chewing cold chicken because I didn't eat. I had an adrenaline headache. It was a night. And I remember packing up, and a cute little Hispanic girl walked up to me and she said, Miss Leslie, can I talk to you? And I'm thinking, sure, let's just come to the back. No problem. She said, no, we have to go outside. I'm like, I'm in an unknown land. My assistant is not with me. Do I go outside with this stranger? And, God just kind of whispered, follow her.
Mm.
And so we go out into the parking lot, and she said, Miss Leslie, and her voice began to crack. She said, I can tell that you were a little bothered tonight, that the room wasn't full. But I pray that after talking to you, that just doesn't matter anymore. I'm thinking, oh, what is she about to hit me with? And she goes on to say that literally just a few nights prior to me arriving, she was committing suicide. She had made up her mind. She was going to take her life. She had wrote the letter to her family, and that was going to be it. And something whispered to her right before she did it, cut your phone on. Thank God that she was obedient. She picked up her phone, and my flyer for my event went scrolling across her phone. And she said, I could just tell from the flyer, I didn't know you, but God was like, if I can just get you there, I'll heal everything that's broken in you. And so she said, I need you to know that if I didn't pick up my phone and I did not see your flyer and I did not feel compelled to come, I would not be in front of you today. And so if you show up to any other room, please just show up for the next woman, the one woman that needed you the most, like me.
Wow.
So you don't, and we just
Wow.
cried and boohooed all our makeup off, of course, and our wigs are twisted by the time we stop hugging. But it's those moments like that where it's like, and here I am worried about the cold chicken and how many people are in the room. And all I could be like was, God, I'm so sorry. And so now I'm just a leader that will lead if it's just me and my children and God in the room. And I stopped counting the heads in the chairs ever since. And I asked God that night to help me stop counting how many come and help me to appreciate who comes, and then to teach other event planners the same.
Wow. 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 Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, through my journey that that's happened, where I'm like, what am I here? And then it all comes together and you realize, oh, I was here for something way bigger than I could have even imagined. So, so cool. So do you still keep in touch with her?
Kept in touch with her for years, and I do believe that God has a way of releasing you from people when
Yeah.
it's time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just supposed to experience the moment with that person,
Right. Right.
and we stayed in touch for a long time, and then she kind of, faded off. But I believe that I wasn't supposed to hold on to
Right.
her for decades. I was supposed to experience that moment, that night, that was supposed to heal her and transform me. And
Yeah.
so it was okay that we kind of lost touch. But when you're touring and you're speaking in places and things, it's hard to stay in touch with every single person
It
that you
sure.
ever meet in these events. But I do believe that what was supposed to happen that night was supposed to happen, and that is what you take on to glory, is the experience, not necessarily the way it
Absolutely.
came through to you. Yeah.
That's such a powerful testimony.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So, entrepreneurship often requires resilience. What
Yeah.
was one of the toughest moments in business and what helped you push through it?
Ooh.
Or what I like to say, flow through it.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I was honored and asked to be a co host on a podcast.
Mm,
And that then thrusted me into a whirlwind of business owners who were African American, but very progressive in policies and just all sorts of things happening in various states and various communities. I was so blessed and so honored to be connected. Well, they wanted to hire me to do a big conference to bring all of their listeners together under one roof for one amazing night, to do the podcast live and to just say thank you. And we had this element where there was going to be an expo and breakout speakers, you guys know. And long story short, one of the partners was not operating in integrity and had different plans for the money that was coming in. Well, being the event planner, I'm in the middle. I have to answer to y'all, and I now have to answer to the vendors. And so when I found out that things were just not on the up and up, I decided to freeze the funding. They took to social media. Well, she took to social media and became my greatest nightmare. I mean, I was so deep in it, I don't even remember how long it lasted, probably a little less than a month. And she became what the kids call a troll. Everywhere I went, she posted, "This woman is a fraud. Don't do business with her. Run." I went through that for weeks.
ah,
And I built my business on the backs, right, of social media. That is where my people dwell. They wake up, they have coffee, they're checking their Facebook. That is my target market. And it was a nightmare. But I wanted her to be able to produce some documents that could prove to me the event was really going to happen and she wasn't going to run with the funds. And finally, I spoke to her partner at the time and said, "Listen, I want out. I don't want to be your event planner. I'm returning these funds to their rightful owner. And you guys can kind of deal with all of the moving pieces of your conference." And then she just got even more crazy. She began threatening my life. She reported me to Better Business Bureau. She was just losing it because it was a good, substantial amount of money. But I could not allow those transactions to happen knowing that there was really no event that was going to take place. I just couldn't do it. And so that was horrific. I was a fairly new mom. I had just taken my mother in from surgery. And I'm talking about, this was maybe the first few years in business when I am still trying to grow my name and establish myself and credibility. And you are, following me on these platforms where I pay my bills. This is my livelihood. And she would make new profiles and become different people, so it was hard to track and block her. I remember laying awake at night like, she's going to destroy me. She's going to destroy me. No one will want to work with me after this. But finally, I did get legal aid and she backed off. Thank God for legal assistants and attorneys and all those people that work in that realm, and they know how to write a letter to shut someone up if they got any good sense. And a letter, thank God, was suffice. But to send someone a cease and desist letter and you're not even 5 years old, it scars you and it damages your trust and it makes you question, do you even want to be an event planner for sure if this is
Mm-hmm.
what that life looks like. But I got through it, and I thank God I had my mother at the time that said, listen, if she doesn't hush, we know how to make her hush. My mom was a legal secretary for most of her life, and she said, no, you don't have to deal with that. You're going to do this, this, and this. And I thank God for wise counsel and my mom and her attorneys, and so it got
Wow.
handled. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a testament that if, even if you're doing the right thing, sometimes you're going to come against opposition.
Yeah.
That worked out, right?
Thank God.
Yeah,
And
thank
I thank
God.
God even for the network that I had built at that time. They
Yeah.
would rally and come behind her messages and say, no, this woman is a fraud. Leslie's amazing. She did my wedding. It just became a rally behind me. No, Leslie was just at my conference. She's awesome. But I also worried, am I going to tire my people out? Like, how long is this going to last? And so I thank God that he literally raptured me out of it. I wouldn't say that it was a simple fix, but it didn't break me, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, communications is a major thread in your story, right? And so, how has your background in communication informed the way you build relationships, teams, and experiences?
Yeah, I hold communication and transparency and honesty to a very high regard. And Jay, I know you know that it's not until you meet people that don't that you realize just how much you reverence and reference to the way people communicate or don't.
Mm-hmm.
I help my clients and I help friends with creating communication plans and expectations for what they want for their business and what they want for their life. I have found that if we don't help people understand how to talk to us, how to communicate with us, and have patience with that process, then you give over the permission for people to then construct for themselves how to communicate with you. And sometimes that goes really well, and other times not so much. And so I've learned that I have to figure out, how do I want to communicate with myself? And then how do I want others to communicate with me? And in the ebbs and flows of that, how do I put boundaries in place and what happens when they're broken? And so now I really take stock in, how are we communicating in this situation right now? Is this a time where we need to step back and reassess? Or is this a time where we really should push ourselves to go forward to be better human beings and just have the tough conversation? Where are we at? And so I think I have a different analytical mind about communication over the course of my life and my career. When I first studied it in school, it was just theory that, well, maybe if I talk to people nice, they'll talk nice back to me. Well, that makes sense. 1 plus 1 is always 2 over here. And it wasn't until I graduated from college and I got away from the theory and the books and had to start living communication with real people and not books that don't talk back to you, that I quickly realized, oh, not everybody values good communication. All right, well, this wasn't in the chapters I read. And I really had to begin to ask God, okay, help me establish a communication plan for my life. What does that look like? What do I want to say about myself? And what will I allow others to say about me?
Yeah. Boundaries is definitely important in business, and effective communication. So, with that, I kind of want to just throw out a question on the fly. So I would assume that when you start to sit down with somebody in the beginning, like all the expectations are kind of laid out, not saying that things can't change along the way, but let's communicate that, right? Or maybe we forgot to say something in the beginning. Okay, let's make sure we communicate that. So I guess my question would be, you know, difficult people, right? Difficult people that may lack boundaries, that may lack how do you navigate that in business? In
At
this,
first. Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
didn't at first. I ran
right.
from conflict. I needed everyone to like me and Partiez by Leslie. I would curve and not say certain things to avoid ruffling feathers because remember, coming into event management in the early 2000s, it was barely being recognized as a real career. So you didn't walk around ruffling feathers if you wanted clients. You dressed in your black suit, you had your clipboard and your headset, and it was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, because we already were sort of positioned behind the veil. We already weren't supposed to really let anybody know that, yeah, this whole thing happened because of me. Y'all have been outside with no food if it wasn't, you know, but that was not the industry. You dare not tell anyone what you made happen. The point was, and still a little bit today, to make your client look good. You didn't share all the bad things. You put that in your bag and you sucked it up. And I would say, Jay, that it wasn't until after my mother passed, January 6th of last year, that it was like waking up. Best way to put it.
Yeah.
Waking up from a very, very long slumber of crazy. Okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize just how much I did swallow and just play to the role until she passed. And I'll never forget it. I was running around town putting her funeral together, and I have clients texting and calling, and they are like, "Excuse me, we need you." Now, I had an assistant in place, but they didn't want to work with her. They wanted me. For a little while, I blamed them for not understanding that I couldn't communicate with them at the time. And it wasn't until I sat down with myself after the funeral and said, "What in the world have I allowed you to think about me?" And that's a real raw conversation to have with a communication degree having toting woman who has always, to the best of my ability, treated women and men and whoever with respect with my words. And so, what if I allowed you to think is okay for you to treat and say to me because I've always been polite? What
Yeah.
has that allowed you to think about me? And so it wasn't until I had to let a few clients go because they were on fire, but I was like, I'm on fire. My mom just passed. Why do I even need to put words to that? Why do I
Yeah.
have to re explain myself? And so it wasn't until she passed that I realized I don't have any boundaries with communication. I had had some expectations of myself, but I didn't have those same expectations on others. And I let a lot of stuff go and a lot of things be said and done without any repercussions. And it's like I didn't wake up to that until she passed. To this day, I think it's because there is something about when the matriarch, if you were close to her, when the matriarch of your life dies, there's a piece of you that says, I got to take up for me now.
Yeah. Now that I do have in common.
Say that I came out roaring in a way that kind of scared me. You know, like, oh, I don't think I've ever been this loud, this bold, this boisterous, this hear me roar. Who, I
Yeah.
seriously, I literally sometimes scared myself, right? Like, I just won't open my mouth at all because if I sound like this, I don't know yet that I like her, right? I don't know that I'm ready to be this loud. But I think with her passing, it was almost not a requirement anymore, but it was a new standard that I had to put in place for myself and help others gracefully understand that, oh, that Jay, you'll laugh at this. You know how you'll hear on movies, often they'll say, I'm a huge Tyler Perry fan. And there's a line in one of his movies, and it's like, it's the moment where you have to let people know old Leslie is gone. I believe it's
Yeah.
Diary of a Mad Black Woman in that film,
Yes.
where she has to remind him, I'm not the same woman that you dragged out this house. And I remember crying and remembering that scene because that's what I was experiencing. You know, it's like, I think all of you have been very used to dragging me with your words, dragging me with your emotions, dragging me with your needs, and everybody is more important than me. But that is not the definition of a wedding and an event planner. And old Leslie is gone. And some were okay with that and others were not. But it was a communication that needed to be had with me and then others.
Right. It is.
It was scary at first.
It is. It is. It's a scary thing when you realize, like, oh, well, wait a minute. I am my mother's daughter.
Yeah,
And that's a legacy that, you put the shoes on and you walk.
yeah,
And I guess I mean, for me, I never really realized, like, not that you're filling the shoes, but that, I know from my experience, there were certain attributes that my mother embodied. And, you know, gosh, I lost my mom in October of 99. So I was a young woman. I was 28 years old. And I'm like, what is going on? I have
mhm,
no idea what I'm doing, like how I'm going to even move on with life. And I think now, because I've had to, go through that and heal a lot of that in this spiritual journey after losing my father, that now I'm like, yes, I love this, that I can embody that and embody it in a way where it's like you feel there's a sense of empowerment there. At least for me, I feel like there's a sense of empowerment that I can embody all of these amazing things, but at the same time, I don't have to be the end all be all to everybody. Like, not every I'm not for everybody, right?
yeah,
And that's a conditioning that we have in life, where I have to be all things to everyone. Everyone's got to like me, and everyone has to have the same experience. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's, let's have this experience, and that's a cool experience. And then now let's go over here and it's something totally different. It's like, you're not trying to one up the next thing, right? Or and lose sight of what it is, the purpose is, right? And who can we help transform, and who can we share our wisdom with, and that moves the needle for them, and they have that light bulb moment, like, whoa.
yeah. And in honor of your beautiful podcast, you were using all these amazing descriptive words, but you know what I felt? Like I was harnessing my mom, like, because my mom was unapologetically her in every way until her final breath. She owned her life, good, bad, ugly, and she didn't care what you thought about the good, bad, and the ugly. And
Right.
I felt her spirit, kind of rise up in me when I unfortunately had to let some clients go. One in which was a dear friend, and that was extremely hard, to unload some people who just weren't understanding that I can't be available to you right now. And I want to be. But one thing I can't do is carry the guilt of not being everything to you right now while I'm also grieving my mother. And my mom wouldn't have wanted me to choose. And so I began feeling all of that too. Like my mom would be like, just cut your phone off. She would always tell me that, just cut the phone off,
Just
Leslie.
cut it off.
Just cut it off. And so,
Yeah.
when we talk about harnessing, my life will never be the same because she passed, and my life will never be the same because she lived. I thank God for the transition because I'm a bad girl now. It's funny, I thought I was pretty dope before she passed, but now, the new Leslie that came out of her passing is something I can be proud of. And I thought I was pretty proud of myself at first, but I'm real proud now.
Yeah. you just, it's like that. It's always a continual journey healing, right? But you just are like, you just move the needle for yourself and you step
Yeah,
really truly into what your true authenticity is. And that's
I think
someone
so.
who has boundaries and someone who can say, you know what, hey, I've reached my capacity and there's no
And
way that I can do this. I can't make it work because if I do, I'm going to hurt myself. Like
I'm gonna break me. Yeah,
I think that's one thing with women. We don't know when to say, okay, I gotta sit this one out, or even asking for help, right?
yeah.
Like,
We definitely struggle with when to walk away. I watched my mother struggle with it. I watched my grandmother struggle with it for a little while there. I thought that was hereditary. I was like, maybe it's just in my blood to hold on to things that are sometimes good and sometimes not the best for me. But it's learned, and we take things from this thing called life. And we, I think, are constantly trying to figure out what to harness and what to discard. Like in this season, what do I keep and what do I let go? But
right.
even releasing the guilt of that is empowering, because we're all on that continuum of, well, I don't know that I was my best self yesterday. So what do I discard from my yesterday? What do I keep from my yesterday and build upon? That's everybody. Everybody's trying to figure out that balance constantly.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of that earlier today, and I had an angel that came in and reminded me that, you can't do it all. You have to just honor your expectations first, because you're the one that experiences all of the angst and the anxiety if you're not able to deliver. So it's
Well, one thing
being
I learned too, Jay, was very keenly when I sat down with it all, right, going through grief counseling. I quickly realized that I also had expectations for everyone else in my life, and I had communication that went along with that. But somewhere along the lines, I stopped expecting a lot of myself. I stopped communicating that to myself in the way that, what are the things that I truly want and why. Like I just stopped talking to Leslie. They say do a check-in with yourself. I didn't realize how long it had been,
yeah.
right, that I had a deep, deep conversation with myself. And so now I take great pride in doing that. I used to think having self-care days was cliche. It is not. It keeps many people alive in my life, actually. And so now, I honor and I reverence my conversations with myself in a different way.
Yeah. And I definitely vibe with what you're saying there. It's so important to check in with yourself. Like I'm like, what's going on here? Like I can't, Jay, you can't do this or you can't do that. Like you're only this one person. And unfortunately, there's some folks that are more understanding of that and there's some folks that aren't. And so there goes that you can't you the thing is to make, I think it's an unrealistic expectation that you're going to make everybody happy. You're just not. And being okay with that, being okay with it, that you're not selling yourself short if you're not able to do that.
Yeah. And that's why the conversations with yourself have to become increasingly important. I now can hear myself talk to myself and not be guilty about it, right? Like I can
Absolutely.
walk around and talk to Leslie out loud freely, whereas the Leslie prior to January 6th of 2025 would have probably committed myself. Yes, like are you
Yeah,
are you doing okay? But now it's
I've
like,
been
I
there.
better talk to me so the rest of you live. You understand? Like, you want me to talk to myself so that everybody else exists. It's
Yes,
now it's become
yes,
a coping mechanism is what they call that. But
yes.
I just I value what I want now more, because I also think when you lose someone that close, it slaps you in the face how much time you don't have to get whatever it is right. Right with yourself, right with God, right with whomever. I have learned that I will communicate better with the people I love, and those that don't deserve that won't get that. And you just begin to start drawing very clear lines that you may not have always. I pray that to our listeners, it doesn't take something tragic like that for them to harness in and focus in on what really matters to them the most. I pray not.
Yeah, and I think there is this, when we were talking about it a little bit earlier about being the end all be all to everyone. There's certain people that just they don't I don't want to say they don't deserve, but I guess we could say that
Let's say it, Jay. They don't
they don't
deserve it.
deserve your time and your
Yes.
energy, and that those are most of the people that aren't doing what you're doing. If you're doing the work, there's certain folks that are not doing, and they're not going to understand what you're going through because they're not doing it. So those are the people that really, you can't sit around and explain things like to people that are not willing to be open to the wisdom that you carry, right? And
Yeah.
that light that you carry and the clarity that you carry. And so it's, not saying that you don't share it. You should share it, obviously, but just knowing that there's some folks that are just, they're not going to be appreciative of it. It is, I say it is what it is.
Yeah, Jay, it is what it is. And you begin to learn that it's also okay
Yeah.
for me to analyze and dissect and give chances for communication, but that there also may come a time where communication may just have to cease so that we both don't die on the vine. I said that to someone I love very dearly last year, and I said, if I don't get off this vine, I'm going to die on the vine,
Right.
trying to convince you and communicate right to you my feelings about a
Right.
thing. But the bottom line is that it's rinsing off of you. Have you ever talked to somebody where you could just see your words rinse right off of them, and it
Girl.
doesn't stick and it remains surface, and you know you're not creating impact and it's not getting through, and surely if you just change your words, right, that maybe something will land. And I think as women, we think if we talk more, it'll be better. But what I have learned definitely in my 40s is that maybe when I talk less, it'll be better. Just maybe.
100.
Maybe I need to stop explaining that. Right? It's almost like living in reverse. Maybe I need to stop trying to convince. Maybe I need to
Right.
stop talking. Maybe I need to stop explaining.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is, we're in a time right now where there's lots of revelations going on, and it's like some folks, we talked about this on our initial call about the reverence of life,
Yeah.
and what life is. It's such a amazing gift that we're given by our creator, and we have to really reverence that, right? And that we're here for only a small amount of time, and to reverence the folks that make the transition, and go off to be with the creator and maybe their next lives. I truly believe I'm an old soul, and being okay with that. um
And I don't know about you too, Jay. To add
yeah.
another layer of depth to that, I now sit and find it better to listen more, obviously, when we're
Yeah.
talking about talking less, to hear if I'm even in communion with someone where if I would open my mouth, would it be worth it? Right? Like, I now sit a little, I sit quieter for a different reason now to say, would my words just be discarded? Because if you'll discard my words, you'll discard me. And
Yeah.
there's healing in that too. And beginning to better identify, am I sitting in the presence of somebody that will reference my words and me, right? Like, will not pick apart the parts that they'll reference and other
Right.
parts they'll discard. But am I really in the presence of somebody that will love all of me, appreciate all of me? Or are you looking for things to discard of me? Now
I
that's a different show.
Absolutely, that's a different show. It's wild that you say that, because there was this young lady, and I came across her TikTok, and she was like, "You keep talking, but they can't hear you." And
Mm-hmm.
there's this, frequency of of what we speak, right? And it's not
Yeah.
going to land with every it just isn't. And the way the more that you can come into an understanding about that, and an understanding that not everybody is going to hear your wisdom. They're just not. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And you just get to a point where you have to be okay with that. And that comes with just growth, right?
That comes with life because that's not
And
in the
life.
textbook.
Yeah.
I don't remember that chapter.
Yeah. It's
I
like
remember
talk
reading
less.
all sorts of things, right? Like if you
Yeah.
respected people and their communication, then this is how you earn respect. It was very textbook. And it's not until you get in the real world that you realize that all of that was theory and great for research and papers. And I am not downing universities. I have 2 degrees, but there is something about then going out and applying what you've learned that you then realize God also made you. You weren't in the book. Okay.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
problem. I don't have a
Right.
book for you, but we'll figure it out.
And it can be very challenging. Life, this journey is, I tell you, you wake up and you never know what's going to happen, and you just have to keep a positive mindset and know that folks will start to come into your orbit that are meant to be in your orbit. And I think you're one of those folks. I think, I'm going to be doing these retreats, and I'm like so excited, but at the same time, like, I don't know it all, right? I
Yeah.
can't possibly know it all. And that's another thing we have, that programming around, like, I have to know everything. No, you don't. Like, there's a reason why people, niche out, and they have their specialties.
And for those who are listening who have an analytical mind, to bring some peace and grounding to that notion,
Mhm.
for those of us who need to have an answer or we can't sleep at night, our brain just won't cut off. I have a dear friend that says something very profoundly to me that helps me cut my mind off when I just need to rest it. And she said, did you ever think that the reason why you don't get a chance to know everything sometimes is for your good? It's God protecting you. The ignorance that you feel, quote unquote, maybe let's not look at it as ignorance as it is protection. It's best that you didn't know that that was going to work out, because you would have messed it up. You would have got in his way of what he was trying to do, and he didn't require you. And I'll never forget the day that she said that. I needed that because I am a person that wrestles with why. Why did that person leave? Why did that person pass away? Why did that person not hear me and understand me, right? Talking about word choice again. I said what I said, right? That's
Right,
tapping
right,
into mama
right,
there. And I don't understand why I still need to explain it in a different way. And I even go through that with my children, right? But
right,
going back to what you were saying, I can say cat, but if you hear dog, that's just what it is. And there's no, I can show you a picture, I can show you a cat bed. If you heard dog, that's what you heard.
right,
And
right.
you're right. Life teaches you that, not the books necessarily.
So true. So true. So looking ahead, right? We don't like
Mm-hmm.
to get too far ahead because, but I think it's important to look ahead and to have visions about where you want to go in life. I think that's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Sometimes the landscape is different on how to get there, because life is a journey, and
Yeah.
maybe God wants to take us another route than what we really thought we were doing. So
Yeah.
looking ahead, what's the next evolution you personally have, and what is the calling on you going forward in the future? What does that look like for you?
Right. I know very plainly, for me personally, I took a break from grief counseling, but I got to get back. I
Mm,
feel my slip is showing, Jay. Okay, I'm easing back a little bit into the Leslie that was like, I don't care what y'all think, my mama is dead. And so it's just when
yeah,
you feel like that's the best way to describe it. When you feel like your slip is showing, it's like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna need somebody to wrangle this in. So I know I have to get back to that. That is first and foremost. I can make all the plans in the world. I got to get somebody back in the ring with me.
yeah,
I've kind of veered off the beaten path from grief counseling. So I know I want to do that. But I also am deeply called to write my mom's story. And so I think I was sharing a little bit about that on a different podcast. I was saying I got to get the story out because there's some people that only got the beauty of Wenda, but they didn't get the raw of Shirley. And both of them raised me. and it is essential to my well-being that people know both Wenda. And so I think people will assume that the book will be called Wenda. That was my mom's first name, but it's actually going to be called Shirley. It's what you didn't know about Wenda that I want you to read about. And I'm excited about that. And I think there's going to be healing. I haven't quite figured out if I want to include family or not just yet. I think I'll start off with just my voice. But essentially, I want to leave it behind for my kids. My beautiful 4-year-old remembers his grandma in spurts. But let's face it, he won't remember her at 16,
Yeah.
17, 18. And so I think now it is critical that we encapsulate as much as we can. I want marriage. People ask me all the time, do I want a girl? I got one girlfriend that has a serious bet going on that I'm going to have a girl, and I just let them collect money on it, Jay. I just be rich without me. I'm not having no more kids. And then I would say professionally, what we're really laser focused with right now with Partiez by Leslie is actually putting my kids in the forefront. I think people have seen Leslie, for 18 years. I want desperately for people to know that I have produced two amazing people in the earth since 2000, and here they are. And so I'm booking podcast and speaking engagements, and they have their brand, and I'm the CFO of Two Brothers in Books, which are my son's businesses. And I really want to make sure that as established and stable as I feel with Partiez by Leslie, that I now go and build that same stability and visibility for them.
I love that you're teaching them how to be entrepreneurs this early, because it's so important.
Oh yeah.
And talk about what the business is for the kids, that the boxes that they do, and the card that you honor your mother. And this is a way of honoring her, having a reverence for her and her legacy that she left. I thought it was such a beautiful thing that you were doing in order to pay tribute to your mother. And so tell the listeners a little bit about that.
It's such a God idea, is what we say in my
Yes,
network. I take
yes.
zero credit. I was sitting one day with my grief, right, trying to make sense of the day, and I was on Facebook and saw a young lady just coloring and inspiring people as she colored. And I was like, God, what is that about? Like, you didn't mean for me to see that for no reason. And from there, I said, whatever I was supposed to get from that, can you make it a little bit more plain? And he said, sure. And he gave me a course called Color for Cash to once again help moms that have less make more with their creativity that was already in them. And he gave me a series of coloring books for my boys to produce, not for me to produce, for my boys to do. And then birthed out of that are these treat boxes. In every box, they're different colors, and in every box, there's a story card, is what we call it. And the very first one that we put out was blue. That was their favorite color. And in that box, there is a story about why every box has to have Jolly Ranchers in it. We will never change the candy. Don't ask us. Like we'll change everything up. No, we're
Getting
not
the
going to put
Jolly
Reese's on the
Rancher. If
box.
you don't like it, give
Yeah,
it to somebody else.
listen, we live in a customized world. Everybody wants to customize it. No, you
Yes.
can't customize our boxes. What comes in is what comes in it. And
Yeah.
but it's a beautiful picture of my mother, and the boys get a chance to tell the world about their grandma and how she would give them Jolly Ranchers every single time they visited. She didn't miss a visit. She had a bag and she was ready for her grandsons to come over. And it's especially beautiful because my 4-year-old can very keenly tell you that story very proudly. He stands in front of his table and he says, look, it's my grandma. Girl, it's my grandma. And here are the Jolly Ranchers. And she used to give me Jolly Ranchers. And so, can you buy my box, please? And girl, they just sell them all everywhere they go. Can't you see it, listeners? You don't stand a chance. You don't even know what's in the box. You just buy it because he's getting emotional and he's showing you his grandma. But it's just been a beautiful way to give my boys language about grandma not being here with them physically, but being here with them spiritually. What does that look like? What do we do with that in real life? My 15-year-old understands it very plainly, but my 4-year-old is kind of like, well, if she's in heaven, why can't we go? Just very plainly, he has these conversations, and so the box has been able to ground that story and give something tangible for the grief that he's going through at 4. because a 4-year-old, it's hard for them to wrestle with, well, is she on a trip? Is this, is she
Yeah.
at Disney with Jesus? What is happening here, and why can't I go? Why can't I go?
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the most heartbreaking part of how suddenly my mother passed, is I didn't have time to explain. And so the coloring books and the treat boxes bring language to that, bring clarity to that, bring peace to that conversation, but still give them a little piece of grandma to hold on to.
I love it. It's such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. So let's talk about where people can find you, Leslie.
Yes. I'm like, where's Waldo? Are you ready?
Right.
Good
Well,
luck
here's the
finding
thing.
me.
Look, she's an event planner, folks. So if you need an event planner, here we go. But there's also the boxes that you're doing with your kids. I think that's such a great thing. I think it's such a great thing for helping mothers, make a little cash on the side, doing a side hustle. So there's so many great things that you're doing. You're also an author of
Yeah.
I think is it 9 books?
I've written 9.
Yeah.
Collectively, we've written 15 as a family, 16 now since we've
Wow.
last. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about where people can find you and where, if they want to they want a book or whatever it may be, like where can they find information about you and your books and what it is that you're doing?
Absolutely. Best place to find me. This is going to sound crazy, but it is Facebook, right?
Yeah.
We have all these calendar links set up. And just look up Leslie Wright on Facebook. I'll probably have different hair, but you'll find me. You'll know it's me. I'm the event planner with the cute boxes and the cute kids. That's what I tell everybody. But I do have a booking link. It is Calendly. Many of you listeners might be familiar with Calendly. It's just Calendly /Partiez by Leslie. And it is Partiez with a Z, not an S. And that's how you book me. We try to keep it real simple. All of our books are on Amazon, and we just try to keep it real streamlined. But social media is definitely a good way to find us.
I'm going to put it here on the screen here real quick so that it's Parties by Leslie.
You want to do Calendly? So
Okay,
CAL.
yeah, your calendar. Yep.
I'm
Okay.
Calendly. Yep.
So
.com.
Parties with a Z on the end by Leslie. She's on Facebook
Yep.
and
LinkedIn, Instagram,
Instagram, all Parties by Leslie.
all the
So
things,
you keep it all, the branding is all the same, which is
all the
great.
things. Yeah.
So it just Parties with a Z on the end
Yes. And I
by
pop right up,
Leslie.
guys. No one spells it like that but me.
Love it. I love it. I think it's brilliant. The branding thing is an important thing I've come to find out in this
Yeah.
journey of starting things and in the business and all of that.
Yes.
So, Leslie, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we depart for this evening?
I just want to first tell you thank you for having me on. I was
Thank you for
ecstatic
coming.
to be on your show. Oh my goodness, what an honor and a privilege. I would leave with your listeners. Oh, it has been, people will say it's been a year. It's been a past decade. It has been a decade. And I would say, however you need to feel that, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Today I feel this way
Right.
about this, and own it and sit in it until the feeling passes. We live in a world where we are expected to process very fast, and then that's how you look up and you just feel out of control, and that you really haven't been able to harness anything. And that is a desperate feeling and a lonely feeling, but it just comes from constantly processing fast on
Right.
demand. And so for your listeners, my prayer is that as they continue to listen to your show, that they can really just sit and anchor within themselves day by day. What is it that I'm feeling? Own it and sit with it until you want to feel something else.
This is wonderful wisdom that you've just shared here with our guest tonight, because it's so true, right? Things are chaotic, and so you got to focus on what's important and make sure that you're grounding and staying in alignment with the spirit. Wonderful advice that I couldn't have said it better myself. So, Leslie,
Yes, Jay.
What is your definition of harnessing the shift? I'm going to start asking people this. What does harness the shift mean for you?
Harness the shift means for me is owning the rights to the ebbs and flows of your life.
Love it. Beautiful.
That no one can take your life story away. That is
Beautiful.
yours to keep and yours to tell, however that looks.
So true. If I had a mic in my hand, I'd drop it. I love you, friend.
Yes, I love you too.
And you take care of yourself.
I will.
And we'll definitely have you on next time again. Like we'll figure out a topic and we'll talk about it, because that's going to be the next phase. I think this is just everybody finding out what's going on with folks, and then I want to have people back so that we can co-create and
we gotta
share
go
on
on
this
tour and have merch and
yes,
girl,
all
we have
of
things
it,
to do.
all of it,
Yeah, the
all of it.
podcast live. Oh my goodness, we have plans.
I tell you, that would be so much fun. Absolutely. Amen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, that's a wrap. Let's give it up for our guest, Leslie Marie Wright. And until next time, keep harnessing the shift. Thank you for dialing in and listening to Harness the Shift podcast. I'm Jay, your host. I spent 23 years in clinical research and have now transitioned into guiding leaders, creators, and change makers through coaching and consulting. I also am a brand partner with LifeWave, and more information about the research and this work is available in the Central Hub link in my bio. During these conversations, my guests share how you can connect with them. All their details are in the podcast description. I'd love your help growing this podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with anyone who may benefit. And make sure to subscribe and follow on YouTube, Spotify, and soon Apple Podcasts under Harness the Shift. You can also stay connected with me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Harness the Shift with Jay, and follow my long-form writings on LinkedIn and Substack at Harness the Shift with Jay. The podcast has its own Instagram channel, which is Harness the Shift Podcast. Everything I mention, coaching, retreats, guest info, and offerings is centralized in the Central Hub, Harness the Shift with Jay. Stay rooted in the light. We're all aligned by design, and together we're harnessing the shift.